से मेरा प्यार भरा नमस्कार।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said President Barack Obama's visit to India has opened a new chapter in Indo-US ties. Obama's India visit wasn't just symbolic, it ended up being one of the most substantive bilateral engagements between the two countries, such as the breakthrough in the Indo-US nuclear deal. While addressing a room packed with India's top industrialists, including Mukesh Ambani, Anil Ambani, Cyrus Mistry, Kumar Mangalam Birla, the US President promised to help India in building infrastructure and smart cities.
I know I speak for the American companies represented here when they say they're ready to partner with Indian firms to build next generation trains that run on cleaner energy and to lay the new railways India needs for the future. They're ready to help upgrade roads and ports and airports to make it easier for Indians to connect with each other and with the world. They're ready to install broadband connections to give communities reliable access to the internet and to help build the smart cities that Prime Minister Modi has called for. And on this visit, we've paved the way to mobilize American expertise and investment in 3 of these cities. And we'll send 2 trade missions to India this year, focused specifically on upgrading India's infrastructure.
The 3 smart cities you just heard Obama talk about have been identified as Ajmer in Rajasthan, Allahabad in Uttar Pradesh and Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. These 3 states have already signed agreements with the United States Trade and Development Agency to set up 3 task forces to prepare a detailed action plan by April. The government has begun the spade work to deliver on the promise of 100 smart cities by 2024. Alexander Matthew reports that the final framework for the initiative is getting clearer and should be finalized by the 31st of March.
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley allocated 7,000 crore rupees for smart cities in his government's first budget. And what was then an election promise will soon start becoming a reality. The Urban Development Ministry says the policy framework for the initiative will definitely be ready by the 31st of March, and on-the-ground action can be expected soon after. Phase 1 will see 100 cities being shortlisted on the basis of a slew of parameters like economic potential, heritage and tourism potential. This list will then be whittled down through a sort of competition, where the cities will be graded on 3 criteria: e-governance, Swachh Bharat and Make in India.
Identification of the first set of cities should be over by 31st of March.
Okay, then
and thereafter it will take 5 to 10 years time to develop that city as a smart city. Second phase of selection of town will be another 3 months or 6 months kind of time. It's a continuous process thereafter.
This continuous process will mean the government has to get its funding in place well in time. After all, conservative estimates suggest upgrading existing towns and cities into smart cities is likely to cost over 150 crore rupees per 500 acres. And that's just for improving infrastructure. So the cost of greenfield expansion and development will be extra. But the government is not worried.
I can only assure you that there will not be any paucity of money, paucity of funds for the development of these towns.
There's good reason for this optimism. So far, the government has not touched the 7,000 crore rupees allocated to this initiative in the 2014 interim budget. And with some progress being made, the finance minister may well add to this allocation in the upcoming budget. Also, the government expects 80 to 85% of the required funding for the development of smart cities to come from the private sector. And this will pick up steam once the policy framework is in place.
In the union budget for 2014-15, the central government, led by the BJP, had allocated 7,000 crore for its smart city initiative. Now it's unclear how much of this will actually get utilized, because according to Aggarwal, 80 to 85% of the required funding is expected to come from the private sector. Now how much actually comes from the private sector will be clear once the policy framework is in place. In Mumbai, Alexander Matthew.
So on 31st of March, we know which are the 100 smart cities that have made the cut. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, though, has already announced Chandigarh will be India's first smart city, and an impetus on smart cities may just be what India's property market needs. International property consultant Knight Frank says 2014 has been the worst year for Indian real estate since 2009 and said only invest if you have a long holding power. More on that when we return from a short break. Stay tuned.